economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security. Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast on this December 1st, 2025. Got a big program tonight. By the way, about to show you some pictures and videos of my granddaughter who was in town with her mother, my daughter, and her father, my son-in-law. So cue up those and get ready, Logan, in the control room. Some pictures and some video. Some of you have actually knew she was here and said, are we going to get to see any video and pictures? So we made some videos over the weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, to bring to you. We'll do that in just one moment. But what are we going to talk about tonight? Oh, I don't know. There's not much in the news. Actually, there is. Have you seen these billboards? Did you go airborne just to pull security for ICE? Well, there seems to be a deliberate attempt to undermine the U.S. military, to create division within the ranks of the military. We know about the so-called seditious six, but now these billboards are popping up. They also apparently have a website as well. I want to ask David Pyne about that. We're also hearing that President Trump over the weekend shut down the airspace, or said, hey, the airspace is closed in Venezuela. I don't know if anyone paid attention to that as far as did anything about it, but that's what they said. Are we going to go to war in Venezuela? Will Russia back Venezuela? Could that become a Vietnam? Is this a trap for President Trump? We'll get to David Pyne on that. And then what about the bipartisan investigation into Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, saying that he should not be calling for strikes in which people are killed deliberately who survive initial strike. In other words, if they're alive in the water, don't go out there and try to kill them. Give them the chance to be scooped up and rescued, interrogated, etc. Did he give a no survivors, make sure you kill everyone order? That's what's swirling. We reported on the Worldview Report tonight. What does David Pyne think about those rumors or stories? And if it's true, what does that say about this Pentagon and Pete Hegseth? I want his thoughts and opinion on that. President Trump says the National Guard shooting suspect out in front of the White House went cuckoo. I want to talk with some folks, that probably Chris Pinto. I'll bring that up during my time with Chris Pinto tonight. I don't think he went cuckoo, folks. They always say that. They were mentally disturbed. They're poor. They're uneducated. Turns out a lot of these guys, these jihadis, turn out to be very wealthy people, highly educated, doctors, etc. Wait a minute, went cuckoo. How do we know he just wasn't following Islam, folks? By the way, my editor called me over the weekend with her husband on the line. Apparently, did you know this, Logan? Jeff talked to that female National Guard soldier that was murdered the day before she was killed. You did not know that? Yeah, he talked to her. He was in D.C. with his son for like a homeschool tour of D.C., saw her standing there with two other National Guard members, two gentlemen, and he went up to them and thanked her and the other two gentlemen that were staying with her for their service. And he said, I talked to her the day before she was shot, and sadly, she died. Well, I would disagree with the President Trump's claim here that the guy went cuckoo. I think he was just carrying out Islam. We'll get into that a little bit tonight. Here's a headline. Sarar warns Maduro has turned Venezuela into a terror hub for Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran-backed militants. Yeah, we've been talking about that for a few years, have we not? That's the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs. All right, we'll get to that. We are going to talk to Chris Pinto about this. World Israel News. Argentina opens files on Mengele. Remember Dr. Mengele, the Nazi doctor known as the Angel of Death? He evaded capture. Well, there's rumors that Hitler evaded capture, that he had help. How about Operation Paperclip that brought a bunch of these Nazis to America? There some folks that really agree with this Nazi worldview? I think there are. That's why I wrote the book in 2015, 500 pages, 600 footnotes, called The Coming Religious Reich. And apparently there are those who agreed with the Nazi Reich and shepherded some of them down into Latin America, Argentina, and I think even Hitler. I want to play some clips tonight, talk about that. As money gets tighter, I should say, more people are selling their gold and silver. Gold hit another historic high today. So did silver. But what about the rumors that some of the banks are having liquidity problems? Are we prone to seeing bank failures? We'll talk about some of that tonight. Financial update with Michael Weiner. Did you see this? UK man arrested for posing with gun in photo taken while in the U.S. Then when he got back home, they arrested him. This is the stuff of fascism. It's ridiculous. We'll talk about that. Let's see what else we got tonight. I guess that's about it, as if that isn't enough. Got plenty to talk about, no doubt about it. All right. So tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social. Over the weekend, I was obviously spending some time with family, but I did spend quite a bit of time. I thought I had it up here, but I spent quite a bit of time over the weekend writing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I spent several hours each day writing the script for Brainwashed America Part 3. Brainwashed America Part 3. I dealt with some of that today on radio. If you missed it, you should go back and watch my interview today with Catherine Turner, co-wrote the book with Courtney Turner, co-wrote the book with Patrick Wood on Final Betrayal. But very interesting program I did. I thought I had that script up here. I wrote 66 pages. 66 pages of the script for Brainwashed America Part 3, which we're going to show you some clips of it when it comes out, but it will be only for members of the Vault. So you're going to need to join the Vault. We got to support this network. I can only push out so much free programming. I got to put some stuff behind the paywall. So you'll join so we can generate the revenue to pay the bills. So anyway, that will be out soon. Hope you'll join the Vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. Do we have the next book in there, Logan? Sabotage? Oh, it's just got sent to Jill, so that'll be published soon. You got the new book on Hamas. You got Siege, and coming soon, the book Sabotage, already in the Vault for members, worldviewtube.com/vault. But it looks like Sabotage will be there in the next 24 to 48 hours. That's based on my documentary by the same title. Okay. All right. Tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, big program. But first, what some of you've asked, you like my friend Lucy, got any new pictures, video of that sweet granddaughter? Is she going to come on your program? Well, to be honest with you, she was suffering with a cold, and she wasn't really in the mood to come on that late at night. But we did film some stuff for you. Let's start with a few pictures, Logan, shall we? Got a few pictures? You have the videos ready first? We'll go to the videos first. Which one do you want to play first? Oh, let's play the one where we're sitting down for Thanksgiving dinner, and we're quizzing her, asking her what these big round red things were on the Christmas tree to see if she would say what we thought she would say, which is the word apple. Now, she's only 16 months old. Now, as I said on radio today, I don't know what the age should be that kids start to talk. I have no idea. This is a mom thing. All you moms, all you grandmothers, you know these things, right? Us guys, we don't know that. I don't remember what age my kids started talking, but I was told this is way early to be saying this many words. She should not. Some kids aren't even talking until they're 2 or close to 2 or 2 years old. Well, this girl of my granddaughter is talking big time at 16 months of age. And we're having a ball, really are, quizzing her and trying to show how smart she is, which isn't hard. Here's the first video. This is literally as we're all getting ready to sit down at the Thanksgiving dinner. Here you go, Logan. Roll it.
All right, Cayman.
Oh, that's not this? Thanksgiving dinner, but we'll go with that one.
Apple.
Apple. Now she's sitting in my lap on
What
this
is
one.
this? What is car?
Yeah.
What's a car make? Beep beep. You know car. Oh, she has a death grip on that.
What's that one? What's
what
that?
Is that?
Cat. Yeah. What sounds does a cat make? Huh?
She's obsessed with cats.
Yeah.
What is this? Cayman.
Check your text.
What's that one?
Cayman. What is this? What is this? What is this? Dog.
Who's that right there? Who's that right there?
Dolly.
Cayman,
We got to
Hey,
get
what
her
is
focused
this?
on one at a time.
what is this? She's overstimulated.
Yeah. You guys are throwing an awful lot at me at one time just to get me to perform. Car. Yeah.
A bus.
We call it a bus, but it's a car too, right?
All right, well, there you go. Now, Logan, do we have the one where she's by the Christmas tree? Okay, let's roll the next video. Here we go. Then we got some pictures. Here we go. Hey, Cayman, where's an apple? Is there an apple on that tree? Show me where there's an apple. Where's an apple?
Cayman, look, come here. Cayman, what is this? What is this?
Apple. You're so smart. Apple. There you go. Yeah, she is smart. And apple, car. Of course, one of the first words she ever said was your name, Dolly. You. She talked about you. We showed Dolly. She was talking and saying your name, Dolly, before almost anyone. Dolly. We heard that a million times. She's been doing that now for quite some time. Apparently, back where she lives, every time she sees a dog, she says Dolly. So she learned to say your name before anybody. And she was very excited to see you. And you were very good with her. You were very patient, very kind. Dolly loves Cayman, don't you, Dolly? Yep. But she says Dolly, car, apple, cat. What else, Logan? Oh, fox. My daughter was a little shocked because she was saying things and pointing out in these little flashcards. She loves playing with these flashcards. My daughter's like, does she know how to read? I'm like, well, what do you mean? She said, I've been told her what the name of some of these animals are. I'm like, oh, you got a smart child on your hands there. She was said, oh, Santa Claus. They were out somewhere and she pointed at a picture of Santa Claus and said Santa Claus. And my daughter's like, I have no idea how she knows anything about Santa Claus. I haven't taught her anything about Santa Claus. How does she know that's Santa Claus? I'm like, well, she's heard it somewhere. So there you go. Any pictures, Logan? There you go. There's a family picture. There's a family picture. Well, you didn't stay on there very long. There you go. There's a family photo. My daughter and granddaughter, obviously me, Melissa, Logan. My son-in-law is the one that took the picture, so that's why he's not in the picture, but we did get one of him with us. Now, there's Brandpaw, for those who are new. Brannon, Brandpaw, get it? My daughter even had a robe stitched in blue that says Brandpaw. There's Brandpaw with her. She's having her bottle. So we had a big time. We had a big time. We had a good time. Hate to see them go. Everybody's homesick for each other, but that's the way it's supposed to be, right? Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to miss each other. If you don't miss each other, there's a problem. But we would love it if they lived in town, but maybe that'll happen one day. But anyway, we had a great visit. So for all of you that were asking for pictures and videos because you knew she was in town because I mentioned it, there you go. And she warmed up to Logan. For some reason, she's a little afraid of Logan. And I don't know why. You're not a scary guy, Logan. But she's even learned to say, I'm scared. My oldest son wasn't in town. He's in another state working. But she warmed up to you eventually, didn't she, Logan? A little bit, he says. But she's afraid of most guys. But that's typical at that age, I think. But we had a good time. So there you go. Let's see what else. Oh. Here we go, folks. I got to go over there real quick before we go to our first guest. WorldViewTube.com/sponsors. Apparently, Bella Grace is blowing the doors off. Sales are very good of Bella Grace. I don't know what it is about Christmas time, but the Bella Grace sales do really, really good around this time of the year. And well, they should do all year long. Because look at my hands. No cracked and bleeding hands as I had for years and years. Haven't taken a Pepsid since December of 2023. The hair growth, quite amazing. And all kinds of other benefits. from Bella Grace, the elixir, with 80 clinical trials behind it. There it is right there. Now, I also recommend the skincare. I don't use the skincare, but Melissa does and highly endorses it. She uses it. And she's crazy about the Bella Melts. And she'll be on later this week about all these products. But she takes the Bella Melt. And her first week, she lost 3 pounds, and she was only taking one a day. Then she found out she can do like 3 a day, one before each meal or after. And it curbs your appetite. But it, according to the interviews we've done, there are no negatives to this. Remember, we've even interviewed Dr. Bashim about this. Because what this does is it uses all natural ingredients to stimulate and activate your own GLP-1. Okay? So while there's all these side effects in the news about some of these other things, this is just activating your own natural GLP-1, helping you feel fuller, stay full, satisfied, cut the cravings, etc. There's apparently even some cardiac benefits to this as well. So there you go, melissahousebg.com. And of course, you know that I take my Gatatana each and every day. I take it in a glass of water. A scoop, 1 scoop is equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. There is a pet product. There it is, right there, the pet product. And I give Dolly a half a scoop every day. There's the cat that had the tumor in its eye. They put it on the Gatatana and the tumor went away. Just a half a scoop a day can support your pet's overall health and vitality. Meet Binks the cat. In just 3 weeks of adding phytoplankton powder to his diet, the improvement in his eye, coat, and overall health is clear. The results speak for themselves. I think that was a tumor, what I'm told. I'm not making any claims. I'm just reporting, right? Of course, we all remember the guy that created it, right? He was feeding his clayfish and starfish, etc. Got diagnosis, a terminal diagnosis. He starts eating the paste and goes in for a biopsy, and they're all benign. Lives another 10 years. So anyway, there you go. We've had family in town, and we are telling them all about these products because they're like, what is that you're taking? My identical twin nieces were in town a week before last, and they saw me with my Bella Grace and rolling it up. They're like, Uncle B, what are you taking there? What is that? And I had a chance to tell them about it. And then, of course, they saw Melissa and I swishing with this. Like, what are you doing there? My brother-in-law ended up taking a bottle home. I think we've sent him a bottle, and then we gave him another bottle because he has a little health challenge, and we want to get him on this. And so he's taking this. So it's interesting. Some of our friends and family come into town that see us taking this stuff and ask us about it. But we do. We do this each and every day, these 3 things, Bella Grace, Numi, Gatatana. There's the Numi, or the Numi, that's got the glutathione in it to detox your cells. Some studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. About 165,000 studies on glutathione. So we highly recommend all of these things, and we use them each and every day. And Dolly even uses the phytoplankton herself. All right. So these are great ways to support us. These also make great gifts. Great gifts. All right, one more thing, Logan. Let's go to worldviewstore.com. Worldviewstore.com. Did we get a video yet on how to do this? How to buy the, Jeremy was, our IT guy, is supposed to send you a video on how to buy the membership. I guess what you do is you go to worldviewtube.com/vault, right? Was at the wrong place. worldviewtube.com/vault. So, okay, say you want to buy the $9.99 a month for a family member, okay? You put in the information. Is this a gift? Where is that? Is this a gift? Oh, yeah, right there. Is this a gift? So click that, is this a gift? And you'll be able to send it to your family member. Okay, so whether you want to do the $9.99 a month, the 6 month, or the year vault, it'll bring you right there. Okay, and then you just go, is this a gift? Click that. There you go. And you can send it to someone as a gift. Okay, there you go. And you don't have to use PayPal to join, right, Logan? When you hit join the vault, right now Square's off, but normally you use Square. Now, why? It's being serviced right now. Why am I hearing about this live on the air? Oh, okay. All right. Just happened, apparently. Okay. Well, anyway, you don't have to just use PayPal because I know some people don't want to do PayPal. But there you go. So the bottom line is we've now set it up so you can give the vault as a gift. So worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and you can now give the vault as a gift. So there you go. And there's a lot of benefits to that, including, as I said, 66 pages I've written now for the script of Brainwashed America, Part 3, the final part. That will be only available to Vault members. We'll start filming it probably this week and be out in the new year. I will probably spend the bulk of the Christmas vacation post-editing that. Logan and I will. So that should be out in the new year for you to watch as a Vault member, but also you can give it now as a gift. Just click on worldviewtube.com/vault. And then when you go to checkout, choose, is this a gift? Click that, and you can give it as a gift. So I hope you'll do that. All right. worldviewtube.com/vault. As little as $7.99 a month, folks. We need your support. So thank you for doing that. Let's get started. Joining me now is historian and broadcaster Chris Pinto. He hasn't been with us in a while, but we saw a story today. We immediately thought about Chris Pinto. It was a story about the very evil Dr. Mengele. Wow, that's not a very good setup there, is it, Chris? Welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brannon, good to see you again.
We didn't think of you because you're anything like Dr. Mengele, but we thought about you because we know you're an expert on these kind of topics, just to clarify.
Well, yeah, I did quite a bit of study on the situation down there in Argentina for our last documentary, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, well, here's the headline. This is from World Israel News. Argentina opens files on Mengele, revealing how Nazi angel of death evaded capture. You know, this is right in the wheelhouse of what you and many others have been saying for decades, that Argentina knowingly helped the Nazis hide out, that even the Vatican reportedly was involved with what was known as the rat line, helping spirit a lot of them down there, right?
Oh, absolutely. Very famously known as the Vatican rat lines. Of course, it didn't just involve the Vatican. It involved the OSS, Office of Strategic Services here in the U.S.
Which became the CIA, right?
The CIA. Mm-hmm. Well, what happened with the OSS was the OSS was founded by Wild Bill Donovan, William Donovan, who was given absolute control by FDR during the war, because they needed some kind of an intelligence network. So they established the OSS. Well, Donovan he is described by one historian not only as a Knight of Malta, but also a well-trained Irish Jesuit. That's how he's described. And for those who don't know the Jesuits throughout history are known as a network of spies, assassins, and really agents of Rome, both secretly and openly. E. Howard Hunt, the famous CIA agent during the Watergate era, called the Jesuits the most advanced, sophisticated intelligence service in the world. So and there's lots of other quotes I could give. But what happened was Donovan, who was he's called a well-trained Irish Jesuit by one historian. He had access to all sorts of information. He also had a very strong connection with Britain's MI6. He had a whole office over there in England, and he had very close ties to the Vatican. Well, the Vatican also had very close ties to Hitler, Mussolini, and the Axis powers, which is very, very well documented. But a lot of it is very covert. A lot of it is underground, and it's controversial. You have books like Hitler's Pope by John Cornwell. That's one. A more modern book that I recommend is called The Pope and Mussolini by David Kurtzer. And that is a very powerful book because it talks about the role of the Jesuit General Ledachowski that most people don't even know about. They don't normally talk about Ledachowski, but he was very, very active. People like Edmund Paris, the French historian, claimed that Hitler was actually following the Ledachowski plan, the Jesuit plan, during the war. That's what was claimed. You had authors like Leo Lehman, who was a Catholic priest who converted, became a Protestant, and he wrote the book Behind the Dictators. He went as far as to say that the entire Nazi movement was designed by the Jesuit order to carry out their purposes. That's what he said. So after the war comes to an end. You've got Donovan, who has this connection to Rome. He, working with British intelligence and with the Vatican, obviously, yes, they defeated the Axis powers. But then the question is, everybody's wondering, why do they start smuggling tens of thousands of Nazi war criminals out of Europe after the war to help them escape prosecution? One of them, of course, was Mengele. There have been rumors for decades that Hitler didn't actually die, that supposedly he was smuggled down to Argentina. That's one of the stories told. In fact, remarkably enough, you actually have books written down in Argentina, and there's like a whole mentality down there that claims that Hitler actually did not die at the end of the war, that he did go and live in South America and survived many years after the war was over. Now, I don't get into all of that in my film because I felt like it was just too controversial. But Mengele, that's openly admitted by people like Sam Donaldson in his documentary, The Last Refuge.
Sam Donaldson of ABC News, former White House correspondent. Right.
Yep.
Well, here's the article from World Israel News. Argentina opens files on Mengele, revealing how Nazi angel of death evaded capture. This is a brand new article, just out a couple days ago. Argentina's new open intelligence archives provide a detailed picture of how Joseph Mengele, the Auschwitz doctor, known for killing prisoners through medical experiments, spent years living comfortably in South America after World War II. The documents released earlier this year under President Milei's declaration or declassification initiative reveal the authorities possessed extensive information on his activities, but rarely acted on it. Material in the files show that by the time Argentina registered him as an immigrant in 1950, officials already had enough records to identify him as the same SS commander who selected victims at Auschwitz and carried out lethal procedures on twins. Eyewitness accounts included the collection describe him as a sadistic figure who carried out abuses in full view of his victims. Investigating folders compiled by Argentina intelligence include immigration documents, surveillance summaries, photograph, international correspondence, foreign language memos, and passport copies bearing his assumed identities. They go on to state that by the 1950s, officials were aware that he had married his brother's widow, was raising her son, and operated a medical laboratory with financial help from his family. An arrest request from West Germany arrived in 1959, but a judge dismissed it as politically driven. After that, and with internal scrutiny growing, Mengele disappeared into Paraguay and later Brazil. A 1960 memo written after he had already left the country described his investments and noted his initial arrival using an Italian passport. Despite the late timing, intelligence officers continued to monitor press reports and exchange information with foreign agencies. Records indicate he moved between rural safe houses in Brazil with assistance from Nazi sympathizers before dying in 1979 while swimming near Sao Paulo. His remains were conclusively identified years later through forensic and DNA analysis. Why is this an important topic? Why is this coming out? I mean, I can see why World Israel would want to put it out, right? I mean, this is a guy that was involved in the Nazi Holocaust and going after Jews and non-Jews. But why is this an important topic for us to talk about tonight?
Well, I think it's important because, one, there is this resurgence, as you know, of anti-Semitism. You have the radical Palestinian leftists who have joined with the Democratic Party. They are rioting and shouting and screaming and everything in different parts of the country, and also over in Western Europe with their Free Palestine sloganeering. And from the river to the sea, supposedly, Palestine will be free, meaning they want to wipe out the entire state of Israel. But what many people don't realize, Brannon, is that the Palestinian Muslims worked with Adolf Hitler during the war. the Grand Mufti. And that is why, I mean, even to this day, many of your Palestinian Muslims consider themselves Nazis. That's not hyperbole. They literally consider themselves Nazis. They think Hitler was a great man. They think the Nazi movement was a great movement because Hitler persecuted the Jewish people. They had no problem with any of it. Hitler had thousands of Muslims in his Nazi army during the war. That is well documented. There's a number of books. I usually recommend the book Islam and Nazi Germany's War by David Modadel, but he's also got another book called Islam and the European Empires that he edited. That book shows how it was the Nazis who originally developed all of this pro-Islamic propaganda promoting Islam as a good religion, that Islam is a peaceful religion, all this other kind of stuff that nobody ever really believed in the Western world. The Christian world never thought that Islam was a good or positive or favorable religion at all. Why? Because Muslims have been kidnapping, raping, murdering, and terrorizing Christian people for 1,400 years. Why would anybody think that was a good religion? Doesn't make any sense. But it was the Nazis who created the propaganda during World War II to make Islam appear to be more compatible with Western values. And I personally, it's my own view, having researched this for years, that a lot of the propaganda that we see on the news and in schools, colleges, universities is leftover propaganda from World War II. And I believe that the mass importation of all these Muslims into the West is the continuation of World War II, that the people that were behind Nazism, because see what the rat lines prove, Brannon, and what's being exposed now with this story is that the Nazis weren't just about Hitler and Mengele and those guys. There were people in the United States, in England, and in Rome who were connected to them and helped them escape accountability.
And we even brought them through Operation Paperclip and dumped them right into our intelligence.
Yeah.
Edwin Black has written a lot on this. I think Annie Jacobson has a whole book on it. I mean, they dumped these Nazis, some of them who had been involved in horrific atrocities, and our own government dumps them right here into the U.S., knowing where they are and literally protecting them, our own intelligence. I mean, and they claim they were doing it because we needed their help to win the Cold War. I don't buy it. I really don't.
No, the other claim, of course, is that the Nazis they had scientists and they were developing rocket technology and things like that, and people wanted access to that knowledge and that information. You know, because they were performing all of these bizarre experiments and so on. Yeah, so there were people who wanted the Nazi scientists to come over and share the knowledge that they learned.
But they ended up bringing a ton of people that weren't even scientists or experts on rockets. It's like, why are you bringing these people over here? And it turned out, if you read Edwin Black and others, I don't think these guys, a lot of them ended up doing anything at all to help America in defeating the Cold War. So why were they here? And I believe it's because there are people that were high up in our government that actually agreed with their worldview.
Oh, there's no question. You study people like Lindbergh, the spirit of St. Louis, Charles Lindbergh. Lindbergh was a big pro-Nazi. There's no question. He got awards from the Nazis. He was actively campaigning against America, supporting Great Britain against Germany while the war was going on. He was very much a part of a movement to stop America from getting involved in the war, to help England defeat Hitler. So yeah, Lindbergh and a lot of people around Lindbergh were definitely pro-Nazi. There's no question. The situation, Brannon, is not unlike what we're dealing with today with Hamas and with this Palestinian connection. I think it's why it's important to know the history, to know that the same people who are now running around our cities and smashing things up and making threats and calling for global jihad and all this other kind of stuff, these are the allies of the Nazis during World War II.
100%. Look at this little clip. This is from the Manhunt for the Angel of Death, Nazi Hunters timeline. Watch this little clip. It's kind of interesting. We'll talk about a little bit more with Chris Pinto of noiseofthunder.com. Let me plug in the audio. That might help. I was watching it and queuing it up a while ago, so let me do that. Here we go.
Buenos Aires, 1958. The Argentinian capital's old world charm and famed nightlife have made it a magnet for European expatriates. It is also a magnet for Nazi war criminals, fugitives like Dr. Joseph Mengele, the Angel of Death.
He liked Buenos Aires, and there was a large German community, some of whom were Nazis.
He had a bit of cash, he was a man about town, and certainly he was very well connected.
He met Hans Rudel, Hitler's most decorated pilot. He met Wilhelm Sassens, who was a wanted war criminal from Belgium.
He was still very much a passionate Nazi.
This was not a life on the run that was terrible. It was quite luxurious. And in 1958, the man that we think of as the Angel of Death, the most hunted man in the world, was in the telephone book in Argentina. One of the things that happens that changes everything for Mengele is that in 1959, he's indicted by the West German government.
The Auschwitz-Birkenau doctor is wanted for mass murder and also for performing unspeakably cruel medical experiments on children as young as 5. Germany demands Argentina hand him over to face justice.
And that scared him. It made him feel unsafe in Buenos Aires, and that was good, because he deserved to live in fear.
What Mengele doesn't know is that there is more to fear than just an extradition order. Israeli agents are on the hunt for Nazis in Argentina, and they've already caught one.
They took off his clothes to make sure that he doesn't got any weapon or razor blade to kill himself. I told him who we are and what we demand from him.
Adolf Eichmann, the architect of Hitler's final solution, is in Israeli hands.
After they kidnapped Eichmann, Zvi Aharoni interrogated him and said, "Where's Mengele? Where's Mengele?"
And he refused to answer about any question about us.
And Eichmann was absolutely, loyal and said, "I have no idea where he is."
In fact, the two had shared cake and coffee several times in Buenos Aires.
Eichmann and Mengele actually meet each other at the ABC cafe, and they don't get on very well.
He viewed Eichmann as a lower-class officer who lived in this terrible area of Argentina, in this suburb of Buenos Aires. Mengele was more regal. He associated with intellectuals. He had the top end of the Reich. Eichmann was he was a working-class stiff at the Mercedes factory.
The Mossad interrogators apply more pressure. Finally, Eichmann cracks.
He knew that Mengele was somewhere in the Argentine, maybe in Buenos Aires, but he had no contact with Mengele.
He met him before, but he had no idea of his address and what he's doing now.
Chris, that's very interesting, and people can watch the full thing out there on YouTube. But, our government had to know where this character was, this piece of trash was the whole time, along with a lot of these other guys. And, of course, it was our own intelligence that were bringing a lot of these folks, as we've already said, through Operation Paperclip, right into our government, into our intelligence arena. It really is, the more you study history, you find out what's been going on in our country, it really kind of rewrites history, does it not? I mean, we know the Bible says that the heart is desperately wicked above all else. Who can know it? But, we as a country have a lot of very troubling stories that the average American doesn't know. And I guess that's the difference between the average American, patriotic, God-fearing, constitutionalist, Christian American, and the wicked deep state, military-industrial complex, and, the dark side of the intelligence arena, which seems to be trying to sow all kinds of confusion in America, and who knows what else is coming. I'll ask you about that later, but comment on that first.
Well, I would say the problem with our intelligence community, and this has been shown if you study Georgetown, the city of Georgetown, that's right there in Washington, D.C. Georgetown is considered a city of spies. If anybody can investigate this, you'll see, but the spies who were there, because you've had OSS guys and CIA guys there going all the way back to World War II and just after the war. And not only them, but then international spies, people from intelligence services all over the world, go to Georgetown and find why, because of the intelligence network that goes on there. There's an interview with Bill Clinton where he is being interviewed by one of his mentors, a guy named Otto Hentz, a Jesuit professor at Georgetown University. And this was the interview was like 2015, 16. And Clinton talked about how in his graduating class, there were a number of people who went on to become chief executives of other countries. And one of his classmates was Turki Faisal, who became the head of Saudi intelligence during the entire 8 years that Bill Clinton sat as president of the United States. So here you have Georgetown University trains the guy who becomes the president of the United States, and also the guy who becomes the head of Saudi Arabian intelligence. And of course, we know that most of the hijackers on 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. So you have a lot of very interesting and troubling connections with the intelligence community and this whole Arab confederacy, or really Islamic confederacy, and this red-green axis going on. There was a report not long ago that supposedly Qatar has donated or given about more than $1 billion to Georgetown University to support their Islamic programs. And that's where they have the Bridge Initiative, where they're telling everybody that Islamophobia is the great danger for Western civilization. It's really indoctrinating this whole idea of Islamophobia that they want to advance in the Western world and use it as a political weapon against Christians and against anybody who criticizes Islam going forward. But see, all of this, I believe, is a continuation of what happened during World War II. Now, I wanted to say this, Brian, if it's okay. There's a lot of emphasis on what the Mossad did after the war, which I generally agree with, honestly. I mean, who could blame them? Right. Considering what happened.
Exactly.
But you also had Klaus Barbie, who was a Nazi, who was responsible in France. When the Nazis invaded France, he went after the members of the French resistance there. And the way he apparently tortured them, beat them, murdered them, committed so many atrocities against the French people and their resistance agents in particular, that they spent decades after the war hunting him down until they also, just like they got Eichmann, Israel got Eichmann, the French resistance fighters, they kept fighting until they got Klaus Barbie, and he was brought back and had to stand trial and ended up dying in prison as a result. But so it wasn't just Jewish people who suffered at the hands of the Nazis. We know that they suffered greatly and they were a main target. But there were others who, and I say that because sometimes people think that the Jewish people and the Mossad and so on, they've just taken it too far. I don't agree. But there were other people who were angry about what the Nazis did, because a lot of people suffered in Europe. A lot of Europeans suffered at the hands of the Nazis. President Harry Truman said at the end of the war, he said, "These Nazis have violated the laws of both God and man, and we will hunt them down to the uttermost part of the earth." And that's what we've done. And good, because without a consequence for what they did, if there's no consequence for it, then it's likely it could happen again.
Yeah. Let me go to Hitler real quick. You mentioned, did he survive? I tend to think he did. I think the skull they found later was that of a woman, right? And, they burned his body, supposedly buried, and then someone went and dug up some of the remains, and the skull was tested, and it wasn't even that of a man. It was a woman, right?
Well, that part you could be right. That I haven't studied. Now I've gone back and looked at the official story from the old black and white news footage. I did this when I was working on American Jesuits, our last film, and looking at the footage, it's highly suspicious. I mean, they go and they seek out a dentist, a German dentist who was Hitler's dentist, and this guy supposedly confirms that the skull is Hitler, and nobody's thinking, well, wait a minute, he could be lying to help Hitler escape. It's the whole thing is very, very suspicious.
Here's the CBC. Hitler's supposed skull really belongs to a woman. That was back in 2009. Yeah. A piece of the skull with a bullet hole through it, the Russian officials claim belonged to Adolf Hitler, actually came from a woman. Scientists at the University of Connecticut have concluded.
Yeah. Well, once you understand the OSS, see what happened with the OSS, Brannon, is their activities, because the OSS have been blamed not only for smuggling tens of thousands, people don't realize quite often, tens of thousands of Nazi war criminals out of Europe after the war. Not just a few hundred, but tens of thousands of them were smuggled out to help them escape accountability. But that not only happened, but then you have, of course, with Donovan helping to create hiding places for them. And so the activities of the OSS, they were also blamed for the assassination of Patton. There are books on this that supposedly Donovan ordered the execution of Patton. Whether or not that's true, people are still debating. But they were saying in the media that the OSS was becoming the American Gestapo. That's what the news reports were saying back during the end of World War II. They said the OSS is getting out of control. It's becoming like the American Gestapo. And that's the reason why Harry Truman shut it down. He told Donovan, you got to shut this down. He gave him a very short period of time to do it. And so the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, was not supposed to be the continuation of the OSS. There was supposed to be the end of the OSS, get rid of the OSS, and we're going to set up a completely different organization that is going to have greater accountability and is going to be a trustworthy intelligence service for the United States of America. That was the idea. And of course, even Truman, by the time he died, acknowledged that's not what happened. The CIA became corrupted. And the reason it did, I believe, is because they allowed OSS agents, the same guys who work for Donovan, they let those guys become the leaders and the inner core of the CIA. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Rather than flush them all out and get, patriots in there, people that were trustworthy, they allowed the OSS agents to get in there and take over.
Let's go to this little clip. This is from Grey Wolf, Hitler's Escape to Argentina. You can watch the full thing on YouTube, but it's fascinating. Then I want to talk about where we are today, where America finds itself, and get your historical and biblical worldview thoughts on that. But here's a little clip you might find interesting, folks.
We've been preparing Operation Fireland since 1943. Between them, General Muller and Reichsleiter Bormann had done their job well. The Argentine dictator Juan Domingo Perón knew, of course. Grand Admiral Dönitz had told his men, "We have built for the Führer in the deep south a Shangri-La." And across Argentina, we had. I had come in 1943 with General Faupel and had stayed to prepare the way if the unthinkable should happen. And now it had. General Fegelein had only arrived a week earlier, but had soon taken charge. Of all the mountain people, he was the most trusted. And as Ava's brother-in-law, the closest thing to family they had in the land of fire. Patagonia was a virtual German colony, And, of course, they were dead. Who would be looking for them? Muller had used the trick many times, faking his, Bormann's, and the Führer's death. The last 12 months had taken its toll on his body, if not his spirit.
All right, we'll hold it there, but you guys can find that on YouTube. I think he probably made it. I think the stories of people seeing him, that he survived, are probably true. What is your analysis?
Well, when I first heard these stories 20-odd years ago, I thought they were far-fetched. I grew up in a military family, and we were stationed over in Germany on U.S. military bases back during the 1970s. And we traveled all over Europe and saw a lot of World War II sites. We saw Patton's grave. We went to Dachau when we were kids. So the official narrative about Hitler dying at the end of the war was just what I grew up with. And I thought, well, that's probably true. But the more I've heard these stories about Hitler surviving and them smuggling him out of Europe, and then just learning more and more about the deception that has things like, think about the JFK assassination and all the deception that has gone on for decades about what really happened with John F. Kennedy's assassination. It happened on camera in front of everybody. And yet they pulled off this tremendous deception for many, many years. So it then, when you start hearing these stories about Hitler, it's not so far-fetched that they could have just lied to everybody and set this thing up and smuggled him, like, almost like in a witness protection type program where they just make him disappear. They take him off grid somewhere and tell him, and the people around him, don't take his picture, don't put him in the newspapers anywhere. And as far as anybody is concerned, he's deceased. How would anybody know? Prior to the internet in the 1990s, 99% of the world would have no way of figuring it out. You know what I mean? There would be no system of communication that people could, that independent journalists could really pursue. So yeah, I have thought, just like you said, that it's very, very possible. I think it's even likely, because think about it. Hitler was really a very dynamic figure for the people who were part of this elite European group that brought him into power. And those are the people after the war. If you study what happened after the war, the Centrum, as it was called, the Catholic Center Party there in Germany, that John Cornwell writes so much about in Hitler's Pope, they're the ones who gave Hitler his absolute totalitarian power. Apparently, their voting to give Hitler absolute authority is what allowed him to carry out the Holocaust. But then that party dissolved by the end of the war, and then they repackaged themselves as the CDU, the Christian Democratic Union. If you study the modern day CDU in Germany, their origin goes back to the Center Party. And that's Angela Merkel's party, and those are the people who are chiefly responsible for this massive importation of Muslims into Western Europe. That's why so many people blame Angela Merkel as the leading influence over the European Union. But even the EU itself was, if you read people like Edmund Paris and others, and you study Joseph Rettinger, who was working with Ledachowski, the Black Pope, and he was the guy, Rettinger, that almost nobody knows anything about, that was meeting with all of these elites and nobles and people who were very powerful and influential. And it's believed that his influence led to the development of the Bilderberg Group and the European Union, the EU. And the EU is really the continuation of the National Socialist movement in Germany and across Europe. That's what it is.
Well, that's why I wrote that book in 2015, The Coming Religious Right, because I believe a lot of this is going to rise again. And of course, with digital IDs, digital passports, biometrics. I mean, can you imagine if Adolf Hitler had had this kind of technology? With that, in our remaining moments, let me kind of transition here. Where do you, I don't know how much you're keeping up with technocracy and 15-minute cities and biometrics and central bank digital currencies and the decline of the US dollar. It seems as though we are moving very fast. As a historian, I know you realize that. If you were going to give us a quick briefing on where you see things going in the next 12 to 24 months or more, tell us your thoughts on that. Where are we going? What, from a historical, biblical worldview perspective, where do you see this going?
Wow, that's a great question, Bran. And obviously, I would answer that very cautiously. I think with what's going on, this whole radical Palestinian, because they're using the Palestinian Muslims to agitate more and more across the Western world. And it's very clear that they want to use Islam as a weapon. I've heard you talk about, and others, people have been projecting this now for a couple of years, that we could very well see some kind of an October 7th type attack on American soil. And that could be the catalyst for who knows what, the rapid takeover of our government, the federal government, by globalist powers. They might do it as Republicans. They might do it as Democrats. It's hard to say exactly what they're going to do. I think, I'm in the ranks of those who are, I think, rightly suspicious of the Trump administration at this point, especially that they've agreed to this Qatari air training center there in Idaho.
Right. I want to stop you right there. So you're joining the ranks of those of us who have become very suspicious. I don't know how much you watch Brannon Howse live here, but we get people that are very few because this audience wants the truth. But we got a guy the other day that emailed. He wanted to dialogue with us about our criticisms, so-called, of Trump. We're not criticizing. We're just reporting facts, giving Qatari an air base. Okay, that's not criticism. That's reporting of a fact. The Trump family deals in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, other things. These are reporting of news stories. The connection between, according to numerous reports, Kushner and his building 666 in New York. I mean, all of these things are facts. And the guy's like, well, I'm a monthly contributor, and if you don't want to dialogue with me, I'm done. Bye-bye. I don't have time to play patty cake with people, and they don't dictate to me what we talk about here. And if they want to try to say, well, we're not going to support you, then go ahead. Because guess what? For every one of you that leaves, there's 35 of them coming in the door because they don't want to watch other shows that are being controlled through money. We're not controlled through money. And I've told more than one donor, thank you, but maybe it's time for you to move on. Because I don't care how much you give, you're not going to become the editor, producer of this broadcast and tell us what we can and cannot talk about. And I'm not going to sit and dialogue with someone about what we report here. If you like it, support it. If you don't, go somewhere else. So for you to say you now join the ranks of those who are suspicious, I just want to note that. Because a lot of us had a lot of high hopes for the Trump administration. But you are on your own, because we don't rehearse these programs, you by your own admission are now suspicious. So why do we have a different Donald Trump from the first term and is speaking so truthfully and bluntly about Islam and the threat? I mean, we even have a report tonight where he said this: Trump claims National Guard shooting suspect went cuckoo. Okay, he didn't go cuckoo. That's what they always try to tell you about these people. They're mentally unstable. They're uneducated. They're financially strapped and poor and desperate. Some of these people have high medical degrees. They're very wealthy. They're not cuckoo. This is what the propaganda is. Whenever they're a jihadi practicing jihad, then all of a sudden they're cuckoo or mentally unstable. So this is not the same Donald Trump. What has happened to him, in your estimation?
That's a great question. That's a very, very good question, Brad. I mean, that's where I think this whole $1 billion donation from Qatar to Georgetown, Trump is connected with Georgetown University because 2 of his kids graduated from there. It's very clearly an influence on him. His sister was a big donor. His older sister, who passed away, was a big supporter of the Jesuits there in the northern part of the country. In fact, she donated like $4 million to them before she died. And that was his sister, who was a federal judge.
Right.
There is I believe President Trump is at the very least being influenced by advisors who, where Islam is concerned, they are giving him some very bad advice, assuming that he's not doing this on his own. But there's a connection there. I mean, Georgetown is pushing Islam, probably more so than any other institution in our country that I know of. And Qatar is a direct connection with Georgetown University. Georgetown even has a Georgetown University in Qatar, in the country of Qatar. So they're getting money here in the U.S. They have a campus there in Qatar. And so now they're suddenly getting an air base in Idaho, which makes no sense whatsoever. In fact, I thought the report had to be some kind of a hoax when I first heard it. I was actually in Oklahoma at a conference speaking there, and my brother-in-law and I were walking back, and a text came up announcing it, and we thought, no, there's no way. There's no way. And it turns out to be true. But then you add to that the fact that he has openly supported Giuliani, this terrorist thug in Syria, who by all reports, not only has terrorized the people of Syria, but has persecuted Christians there, has done exactly what the Syrian Christians warned about back when John McCain was still there. I don't know if you remember when this Syrian Christian woman confronted Senator John McCain before he passed away, because there was all this agitation against President Assad there in Syria. And her argument was that, well, at least the Christians were protected under Assad. Now, of course, it does not appear that they're going to be protected under Giuliani. And this is the pattern with these globalist powers. They did the same thing in Nigeria. You remember when Obama was president, and it was said that Obama ousted the Christian leader in Nigeria and helped put in this guy Buhari, who was a terrorist thug. And now look what's happening. All the Christians are being persecuted in Nigeria. So we're seeing this pattern over and over again. They did this in Iraq. They turned Iraq upside down, got rid of Saddam, then they pull out, and then all the Christians end up being persecuted and mass murdered in Iraq. I believe it is a very covert anti-Christian movement that is systematically persecuting Christianity across Africa, the Middle East, and many parts of the world. And they would love to be able to get away with it here. I think they're moving in that direction. I think they're going to try to advance the Islamophobia narrative and use that as a weapon against the conservative Christian population here. If Trump leaves office and he doesn't prosecute any of these deep state people, the Democrats have committed crimes openly for which they could be prosecuted, but there's no prosecution of deep state actors or the people behind open borders, etc. There's no prosecution. So if those people are left in power and the Trump administration stands down when their time is up, what's going to happen? We're very likely going to see the country pulled farther to the left than ever before.
Are you worried about your ability to be a broadcaster like I am?
Well, I try not to worry, Brannon, because we're Christians. We fear God.
Okay, are you concerned? Are you concerned?
Well, yeah, certainly. Yeah, definitely. I have a concern that, look at what they're doing. They passed a law down in New South Wales, Brannon, in Australia, that if you as a Christian pray, if you sit down with a person who is a homosexual and you pray for that gay person to repent and believe God and obey God's morality, they will put you in jail for up to 5 years.
Well,
that is a law.
I got a video here. This poor guy, Ed Enoch Burke, he's been thrown in. He's been, I think, 500 days already in prison because he refuses, as a Christian, to use the quote pronouns, end quote, of some person that I guess thinks they're of a biology that they're really not. And here he is again being arrested. This self-described Christian, and of course his parents are very vocal as well. Here we go. This is down in Ireland.
No, I've done nothing wrong.
This is horrendous.
I've done nothing wrong.
This is horrendous.
I've done nothing wrong.
This is horrendous what's happening. This is horrendous what's happening.
No. It's not right. It's not right what you're doing.
Okay, we're enforcing the order.
It's not right what you're doing.
Okay.
It's not right what you're doing. You know that's a wrong order.
Okay, we're
you know
enforcing
there's
the
no
order.
lawful basis for that order.
Can you please
no,
get into
I
the
will
car?
not go against my conscience. No, I will not go against my conscience. I have a right to be here.
This is horrendous. This is horrendous what's happening. This is horrendous what's happening.
My son, who has an impeccable record and was brought up to have a clear conscience before God and man, you're pushing him into a guard the car, arresting him, and with the view to incarcerating him, to incarceration in Mountjoy prison. In Mountjoy prison.
No, I've done nothing wrong.
Please get into the car.
No, I've done nothing wrong.
I mean, if someone had told you this kind of thing would go on 20 years ago, nobody would believe it. And this is in Ireland. Now we have, which is generally a very Catholic country. But I don't understand where the Catholics are, why they're not screaming and hollering, and some of them I know are. But we have another.
Oh yeah, they're starting to realize, Brannon, that Sinn Féin, which is driven by the Jesuit order. They were out shouting in the streets, Catholics and Protestants. Sinn Féin are traitors. That's what they said. Sinn Féin are traitors. They're being betrayed.
Well, and here's another one from Zero Hedge. UK man arrested for posing with gun in photo taken while in the U.S. Really?
Oh, yeah.
So now he goes home and he gets arrested because it offended someone. It may have scared someone. You know, you probably saw the video of the guy over there in the UK, older gentleman, I think pushing 100, if not over, that said, I'm not sure it was all worth it. You probably saw him on the couch. Did you see that? He was on the couch of a show there in Great Britain, and he was asked about World War II and his generation. And he says, I'm not sure with all this happening in the UK now, I'm not sure it was worth it. It does seem as though a form of fascism and Nazism is marching around the world, which again is why I wrote the book in 2015, The Coming Religious Reich, because you can see these philosophies emerging again. And in places and in countries you really never thought it was going to happen. Places like Ireland.
Yeah, Ireland, and over in England, the woman who was arrested for literally standing across the street from an abortion clinic. You saw that video, I'm sure.
Yep.
She didn't have a sign. She didn't have a bullhorn. She didn't have anything. She was standing there quietly praying to God, and they arrested her. Thankfully, that was overturned, and she had, the court acknowledged the wrongdoing, but it shows the direction that they're going in. During the Inquisition era, we cannot forget that in England, you once had the fires of Smithfield. Smithfield is where they burned the Christian martyrs at the stake for reading the Bible. And unfortunately, England and Europe has a history of persecuting Christian people. When you have non-Christian people, I believe the Inquisition happened because pagans hijacked the hierarchy in Rome and certain positions of power across Europe. And these were pagans. These were not Christians. Christians don't outlaw the Bible. But that's what they're doing. That's why you had the woman, who was a member of parliament, Pyne Rassanan, her name, Dr. Rassanan, who had opposed a gay pride parade by posting a picture of the scriptures online that pertains to, LGBT issues, and said because people at her church wanted to go celebrate a pride parade, and she said, should we celebrate that which God calls sin, words to that effect, and posted a picture from the scripture on the internet. And for that, they've been prosecuting her for more than 5 years now.
And where's that again? And where's that?
That's up in the Netherlands.
Well, here's that clip. Here's that clip real quick. The World War II veteran saying, I don't think it was worth it. Listen.
Mean for you? What is your message?
My message is, I can see in my mind's eye there was rows and rows of white stones of all the hundreds of my friends and everybody else that gave their lives for what? The country of today. No, I'm sorry. The sacrifice wasn't worth the result that it is now.
Oh, well.
Wow. The sacrifice was not worth the result of what it is now. Good morning, Britain. And the poor host there on the couch tried to console him and tried to turn it, because I don't think they were counting on it going negative like that. I think they were trying to do a feel-good piece and honor him, but God bless him for being honest, right? I mean, it is so true, right? And you see, and it's in my documentary, Brainwashed America Part 2, where you have Jeremiah Denton and all these other guys, some of them of Red McDaniel and others that I personally interviewed, that were in the Hanoi Hilton or even moved to what they called Auschwitz, which was even the worst place, because they refused to give in to the communists. They refused to collaborate with them. And yet now our whole country is largely, at the highest levels collaborating with the, if not the communist worldview, the Islamic worldview and a neo-Nazi worldview. It's not shocking because we've been covering it for decades and warning about it, but it is, to me, shocking that it is getting such a foothold inside of the MAGA movement, the America First movement, on the side of the so-called right. And it's, of course, shocking how this has now been picked up with replacement theology inside of modern-day evangelicalism. Comment on that as we conclude.
Yeah, it's very disturbing, Brandon. You go back to the Second World War, where this veteran is talking about Winston Churchill chose during the war the song, the anthem for the Allied forces for England, the United States, and for France, because of the Christian heritage of those three countries. He literally chose the song, "Onward, Christian Soldier, marching on to war with the cross of Jesus going on before." That was the anthem, literally. If you watch the documentary series, Why We Fight, they even you see Churchill sitting there on a ship singing it with the troops. That was how they viewed it, that they were a Christian army, Christian forces fighting against the powers of evil and wickedness. That's why you had the propaganda poster with a Nazi hand with a dagger in it, stabbing down into a Bible. And it said, "This is the enemy," across the top, recognizing this is good versus evil, Christianity versus the powers of hell itself. And it was very, very clear. But now, more than half a century later, with all the propaganda in the education system, all the anti-American, anti-Christian propaganda, and anti-American, anti-Western brainwashing that has gone on, they have raised up several generations of young people with this anti-Western worldview that are now sympathetic toward people who are mass murderers. Openly mass murderers, committing the most heinous crimes anywhere on earth. And yet our young people have been indoctrinated to think that there's some kind of noble, heroic freedom fighters or something. This whole Palestinian movement and this Islamic movement, in spite of all the dangers and all the warnings, and there's every reason in the world to reject Islam, and yet people have been brainwashed into embracing it.
Indeed, they have. Chris, the movie where you mentioned the rise of the Nazis and the Nazi worldview and all that, you've mentioned the movie a few times. Name it where people can get it.
American Jesuits. American Jesuits. A History of Jesuitism in the United States. And it's a 3-hour film. They can get it at our website at adullumfilms.com, or they can go to our radio site at noiseofthunderradio.com.
Noiseofthunderradio.com.
Yeah.
Noiseofthunderradio.com. Chris, as always, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a while since we've chatted with you. It's great to have you back.
Yeah. Thank you, Brannon. Great to be here as always.
Chris Pinto checking in tonight. Check him out there, including his podcast and his documentaries, noiseofthunderradio.com. We'll be right back. Do you appreciate all the free programming we produce here at Worldview Tube? Well, if you do, we need your partnership now. If you're already supporting us, thank you. If you're not, would you please consider doing so? We have to have a big November and December end of the year giving. Please go here right now to this website, worldviewfoundation.com. Worldviewfoundation.com. You can give through credit card. You can give through PayPal. You'll find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. You'll also find our phone number. Simply use that phone number by leaving a voicemail for Melissa or texting her, and my wife will get back with you and help you make your contribution over the phone. We send out tax receipts with our EIN number, well, the first week of February of each year. We, again, have to have a very big November and December as we get ready for pushing out more Christian Worldview programming for 2026. So thank you for going now to worldviewfoundation.com. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Joining me now is one of our national security experts, David Pyne, on, what's going on with Venezuela. As you know, President Trump over the weekend declared the airspace should be closed to everybody, traffickers, drug dealers, the whole 9 yards. I don't know what's coming. And then we have supposedly a bipartisan investigation into Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Apparently, he sent out an order that nobody was to survive any of these narco-terrorist boat, bombings. There's a lot of controversy about that today. Many people weighing in. We'll get to that, all of that, with David Pyne of dpyne.substack.com. David, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us. Here we are, December 1st. Can you believe it? This year went fast.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for having me on. Yes, this year has gone fast, and, the national security updates continue with every passing day. War on the horizon, apparently.
Yeah. Well, here's one of your tweets today. Russia is wanting to turn Trump's planned invasion of Marxist Venezuela into a Latin America Vietnam, costing tens of thousands of U.S. casualties over a multi-year period in response to the U.S. war against Russia and Ukraine. Will Trump stumble into Russia's trap? What are your thoughts there? I mean, do we have any word as far as Wall Street Journal, I think, was reporting that maybe Russia was going to back out and not support Maduro? What are you hearing tonight?
Russia's absolutely going to back Maduro. They have sent a Russian colonel general whose previous commands include commanding a group of forces, I think, in the Ukraine war. I think he's also been a Russian special operations forces commander, Spetsnaz commander. So he's in charge of essentially ensuring that the Venezuelan military is trained in counterinsurgency warfare. That if the U.S. or President Trump sends tens of thousands or even over 100,000 troops to occupy and invade Venezuela, that they'll incur heavy casualties over an extended period of time if they remain so. And they've deployed it. I think he has 150 to 200 additional Russian military trainers. They may be Wagner Group, or they could be Spetsnaz trainers to train the Venezuelan military to incur maximum casualties on U.S. forces.
Now, is Maduro negotiating anything here to try to save his own hide?
Yeah, there have been active negotiations ongoing at a lower level with the Maduro regime and the Trump administration. But there's also, I think, as according to a New York Post article, that there's been a direct call between Maduro and Trump, and Maduro offered to leave power in exchange for full amnesty for himself and all of his regime officials, as well as him retaining control of the Venezuelan military. Kind of a deal that we saw with in Nicaragua with Daniel Ortega, in which Daniel Ortega, of course, the communist president of Nicaragua at the time, allowed for free elections in 1990, while the Sandinistas retained full control of the Nicaraguan military. But President Trump, he rejected both of those proposals. He said he would not allow Maduro to remain as an army commander or to receive full amnesty for all of his officials, only for himself and his own family. So that deal was rejected.
So that deal was rejected. Okay. So if you had to guess, what's coming?
Well, I mean, we've seen 30% of U.S. Navy ships deployed, along with our most powerful aircraft carrier and several amphibious warfare ships, amphibious assault ships, landing ships, about 10,000 Marines, I think. A full Marine Expeditionary Unit has been deployed. I think those are division-sized. So we do have a substantial amount of forces, certainly not sufficient troops to overthrow the Maduro regime. I think it would require a force at least 5 to 10 times what we have there in terms of ground troops. But we could see airstrikes. I mean, there's been a substantial U.S. military buildup in Puerto Rico with a lot of F-35s, strike fighters, as well as more troops and Patriot air defenses. So we are gearing up for war with Venezuela, and it's I would be surprised if we didn't see military action, and that would likely begin with airstrikes, of course, on Venezuela.
Any time frame you have?
Well, the inside story I had was that it was going to begin, I think, a week or two ago, and we didn't see that. So, as we discussed, I think on one of your previous shows, the arrival of the USS Gerald Ford was supposedly going to herald the beginning of U.S. military operations against Venezuela. But this is on Trump's timetable. I do think that he does want to avoid war. He wants Maduro to leave power, but on his terms, not Maduro's. So those negotiations may continue. I think Trump may have an internal deadline. He certainly hasn't shared that with us or with anyone that I'm aware of. But he likely does have a timetable, and that's I would guess that's end of year. So I would expect if Maduro doesn't go quietly or some deal isn't reached, then we'd likely see U.S. military action after Christmas, possibly after New Year's Day.
Okay. Here's another one by you tonight. Reports indicate Secretary of War Hegseth may have ordered the commission of war crimes. You say this needs to be investigated. Rand Paul, senator, said, quote, "It's not permitted under the laws of and customs of honorable warfare to order that no quarter be given, to apply lethal force to those who surrender or who are injured, shipwrecked, or otherwise unable to fight," coming from the National Review. Now, we reported on this on the Worldview Report tonight. So these narco terrorists that are being blown up, reportedly, some of them were in the water and survived, and somebody went back and dusted them off because of the order. They, as I read in the press, accordingly, they knew, but the order from Hegseth was no one's to survive. So is that the story? And now is this why you have a bipartisan investigation going on?
Yeah, that's the story. The story is that Secretary of War Pete Hegseth ordered a second strike on a drug boat, suspected drug boat that had been sunk, but had survivors in the water and were either sunk or was seriously damaged and burning, and wanted those survivors, executed essentially. And he did so according to reports saying that this was a matter of U.S. national security, that not just the boats be sunk, but that the helpless survivors be executed as well. And I would sharply disagree with that. First of all, there's no evidence that these are drug boats that are attempting to smuggle drugs in the United States or even Mexico. They don't have the range to reach the U.S. or Mexico. These are speedboats. It's possible they could be in drug smugglers ferrying drugs to neighboring islands, but there's no evidence that's been presented to suggest that they are actual drug boats that are involved in the fentanyl shipments to kill Americans here in the United States.
Any indication that they're going to this Margarita Island, where we supposedly have a bunch of Iranian Hezbollah guys and others being trained and have been for a long time? I don't know the map where these bombings targets have been eliminated. Are they anywhere near that island? Because I'm asking because we've reported about the Margarita Island. And if the issue is they're killing guys involved in being trained to be involved in attacking America, these are Iranian forces or whatever, why not just come out and say that?
Well, it's clearly the Trump administration is not being transparent
right.
in terms of the evidence. If indeed they have any evidence, which I doubt they do, that these are in fact drug boats that conducting narco terrorist trade with through Mexico and funneling in fentanyl into the United States. They're not providing the evidence. We're being told to take their word for it, which normally, I think President Trump often does tell the truth. He usually does tell the truth. He's usually a straight shooter. But this is one of those times when I highly doubt the White House's excuses. And they're trying to spin the story and cover for Hegseth, saying that it wasn't Hegseth, but it was the U.S. Admiral in charge of Special Operations Command that gave the order to conduct the double strike and kill off the survivors. And, I can just tell you that that's not the case. There's no way a four-star admiral would who is well-versed in terms of the U.S. military code of justice would violate international law in so brazen a fashion. He would only do so if indeed he was ordered by the Secretary of Defense or the President of the United States.
So if you're throwing an admiral, a four-star admiral, under the bus to save your own hide, that seems to me, and I've never served in the military like you have, and thank you for your service, but that to me would seem like a great way to get your admirals and generals to not trust you. And he already seems to have an issue with a lot of them with the way he brought them all in and then proceeded to lecture a bunch of them and talk down to them and that little thing that they did when they brought them all in for this coaching or whatever they were doing and what their new mandates were. And as some of them said, I guess anonymous generals were saying that that for a lot of them, they don't trust him anymore. So is Pete Hegseth, his team, trying to get the generals not to trust him, or is Pete being set up? Because there seems to be some kind of goal here, from what I can tell, to cause there to be massive dissensions in the rank, right? We have a reported website here. Well, not just a reported website, but we supposedly have billboards. Did you go to Airborne just to pull security for ICE? ? And it's got this website, something about, is this what you signed up for.org. And now we know we have what are being called the seditious six, saying don't follow unconstitutional or illegal orders. Then this happens. Is Hegseth doing this, or is he being trapped? People around him are giving him bad advice in order to cause there to be dissension in the ranks and turn the military upon itself.
Well, I don't think Hegseth bears responsibility for ordering, troops to, move against, the illegal immigrants in our country. I think that's a President Trump directive. So I wouldn't lay the blame for him.
No, I want to make sure I'm not naming that as his fault. I don't know whose that is, but I'm saying you seem to have groups, outside groups, that are trying to create this dissension in the military by putting up these kind of billboards. And then we have the seditious six. So we have, it seems like, I don't want, if you want to call it a color revolution, an attempt to get the military to go against the administration, to turn against the administration. So whoever is this outside group doing this, the seditious six, as they're being called, saying what they're saying. Now this with Hegseth, in other words, is Hegseth, is he not even the one that threw the admiral under the bus? Was someone in the inner circle or around him or in the Pentagon doing this? And again, in other words, is there snakes in the tall grass trying to create problems for this administration and this Pentagon, all the way down to trying to get the military to not respect the command or the administration itself?
Well, certainly, we know there's been a lot of seditious deep staters in and out of the Trump administration. Obviously, General Milley, he had an infamous, I call him the biggest traitor since Benedict Arnold. I think he was more of a traitor than Benedict Arnold because he actually, tried to usurp the president's nuclear command authority and organize a potential military coup against the democratically elected president of the United States. And I would argue reelected, but of course, there wasn't. That's not the way the courts, saw the 2020 election. But the Seditious Six, this is certainly just a continuing deep state Democrat effort to undermine the U.S. military and weaken us from within and weaken the Trump administration. And I strongly oppose all their efforts to do so. With regards to Pete Hegseth, this order to essentially kill off the survivors is entirely in character for his previous successful attempts to get Trump to release U.S. war criminals who had been credibly accused of committing war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan against civilians and surrendered soldiers, essentially enemy soldiers and insurgents. And Hegseth was basically saying that let's cover up all the U.S. war crimes and call the war criminals heroes. I mean, we know there are war criminals that admitted, here in the U.S. military that committed war crimes. And the difference between World War II and today is, during World War II, we promoted them as heroes and elected even one of them president, General Eisenhower. But under the U.S. Code of Military Justice, we imprison them. And that's exactly what we should do as a moral Christian country. And Hegseth's order, I think that it's quite likely. In fact, I'd be surprised if it wasn't Hegseth that gave that order. And the White House is clearly trying to cover it up. Carolyn Leavitt is the one who said it was the Special Operations Forces commander, the four-star admiral in question. But that obviously that line of attack or cover was not something that she dreamed up. It was someone within the administration that's trying to protect Hegseth from being forced to resign.
So you could end up seeing him having to resign at some point if this continues to grow in a bipartisan way, right?
Yeah, I mean, the key is that it's bipartisan. We have the former House Intel chairman that's on record, saying that this needs to be investigated. It's not just Democrats doing it. He's a neocon, and I think he has ulterior motives. I think he's likely one of those that wants to see Senator Cotton, a neocon, replace Hegseth. Hegseth is generally America first. I've supported him despite his stance on war crimes because I think he is genuinely supportive of peace. Maybe probably not with Maduro. I think he probably supports going to war with Venezuela, but I think he genuinely wants to see the war in Ukraine ended. I think he opposed the reportedly the U.S. Strikes on Iran's nuclear production facilities. Again, there may be ulterior motives, but it's you can see that Hegseth is kind of losing credibility, not just with the military and our top generals and admirals and military commanders, but also increasingly with Republican members of Congress.
And here's this website, notwhatyoussignedup.org. Who wants to look at it? Notwhatyoussignedup.org. You saw the billboard. You have questions. You're not alone. Be first. Here are proactive steps you can take to reduce risk. Be sure to access resources from a personal device, not a military or government computer, email account, phone, or Wi-Fi network. Use an encrypted Proton Mail email account. Use the Signal app for encrypted text and calls. use a virtual private network. And then there you go. So, there is clearly a concerted effort, and I don't know what NGOs, if any, are behind this, but there clearly isn't. It looks like a full court press to get involved in politicizing the military, creating dissension in the ranks, creating a problem at a time when we are facing an awful lot of very, very serious hotspots around the globe, not to mention in our own homeland and our own borders. I mean, this is not good.
Yeah, members of the one of the members of the seditious six, I think it was Senator Slotkin. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but she's the former CIA officer that was elected to the Senate. She was asked, what illegal orders has President Trump ordered our military to commit? And she said, well, there's no evidence of any illegal orders to date. Well, what's the purpose of their call for U.S. military officers and enlisted men to oppose illegal orders if no illegal orders have even been issued according to their own knowledge? I mean, this is clearly, clearly a seditious, an attempt to sow dissension in the ranks, and it needs to be called out.
No. All right. dpine.substack.com, dpine.substack.com. You can also follow him on X. His handle on X is America at America First Con, at America First Con, dpine.substack.com. As always, David, thank you for your national security updates.
Thanks so much, Brannon.
David Pyne checking in tonight. Glad he's with us, aren't you? We'll be right back after this short break.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage, and now, real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
Joining now for a financial update is Michael Weiner. As money gets tighter, here's a headline: more people are selling gold and silver. And of course, we're also watching as the government is supposedly, as of today, December 1st, done with any kind of quantitative tightening. And many are saying that they have no choice but to print to keep the economy up and afloat. Gold hits a high today. Silver went up over $58. That's the highest ever. So do I have it right? Record highs again in gold and silver?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The problem is people are very foolish right now. I'm ready to make my prediction for next year, as I did last year, and I was right, and the year before, so I'll tell you now, $5,500.
$5,500 an ounce for gold. What about silver?
So all the people that are selling now, congratulations.
Well, a lot of them are selling because they're selling for various reasons, which really shows you a lot, right? They say that some of the folks are selling. I'm going to go to the bottom of the article. Some of them are selling because they want to take a trip. I'm like, how stupid are you? Let's see if I can get to the bottom of the article. It gives percentages as to why people were selling and what they were selling, if I can find it. But some of it's because they just wanted to take a trip. They wanted to take a vacation. Here we go. Most sellers spent their money on basic needs. Only 9% used the money for a vacation, 4% for new jewelry, and just 2% for electronics. Fewer than 1 in 6 used their money on luxury items. You're going to sell your money to take a vacation, really? Or to buy electronics? Some people were having to sell out, though, because they needed to buy basics. Basics.
I think there's some people selling for that, and I think there's some people drawing their profits out right now because the markets are up, and they figure why not take some money from where they can. what they really should be looking at is their stock positioning, because that's the area that's going to get very interesting next year. Very interesting.
All right. So quantitative tightening is over. Explain what that means to the audience.
Well, what it basically means is that the government was going around and going through its entire financial position, tightening all the areas up around the financial budget, supposedly, that we don't have. We don't have a budget. Yet what's interesting, they call it quantitative release, or what you're talking
tightening,
about.
yeah.
Tightening. But at the end of the day, what's really interesting is there's no budget. So what are they comparing it against to say that? They call it quantitative tightening, but there never was any quantitative tightening. Where did it exist? The only thing that existed was actually Doge. Everything else was spending. So the tightening that they assumed that we believe was going on never really happened. And if they could give me an example of it, I would like to see it, because I have not seen any quantitative tightening other than the activities that was done by Doge. And even this weekend, when I met with a guy who worked for the National Forestry Service, and literally told me how that one day they walked in and laid everybody off. So literally, there's nobody watching the forestries area in the country. Now they're starting to rehire again. So if that was quantitative tightening, he told me it was Doge.
Let me ask you about this. Is there any truth to this? Rumor: J.P. Morgan moved its entire New York gold silver trading desk to Singapore. Is that true?
Not in its entirety, but almost in its entirety. They had to keep some people on the trading floor at the COMEX and other places that they have activity. But what they're concerned about is, number one, costs of doing business in New York in general, because they pay for that trading activity, and deliveries that are coming out of New York are going to kill them when Mamdani takes control. But more importantly, they're doing a tremendous, outside the United States, and we talked about this earlier in the year, the world is looking at gold as a financial instrument. And they recognize that, and the BRICS nations, different than the United States and the West, are using gold as a monetary instrument. And it makes a lot more sense for J.P. Morgan to have people in Singapore trading in the Asian marketplace than trading in New York, because they're losing money. So they are moving people to Singapore so they have a more readily active within that marketplace. And the BRICS nations are dumping the U.S. dollar and dumping treasuries and moving into gold and taking those dollars and trading. And that's why J.P. Morgan and other people are moving people in that area, because that market, which used to be secondary to the U.S. market, is no longer in that manner. So they are trying to cover themselves. I think in that same article, they mentioned the amount of deliveries coming out of J.P. Morgan for gold is astronomical right now. It's bigger than it's been in years, because countries want to be paid in gold, and they're being paid through other countries that are hedging themselves in the marketplace. And it's very strange in the futures market. Most of the time, people don't take delivery of their contracts. They sell them off. And in this case, they're taking delivery of them. And that is why they're going to Singapore, because it's a lot easier for them to deal with that marketplace than dealing with it out of the United States or the LME, which is pretty much defunct in a lot of different ways. The London Metals Exchange, the LME, is not what it was years ago.
Let's talk about liquidity, these banks. I'm reading more and more reports that some of these banks, I don't know if it's because, again, things like stable coins, people get into that. Those are backed by treasuries, a way to sell treasuries. And therefore, they're pulling money out of the banks to buy stable coins. I don't know. But I hear the banks are in another bad spot with liquidity. What are you hearing, and what does that tell you?
Well, banks used to be an 8-to-1 ratio with lending, and the government let them go all the way to 30-to-1, which is horrible. I mean, in ratio to dollars available. So the reality is that right now the banks in general, with the staple coin, that whole move is an agenda of the government. Trump passed, and we talked about it in July, the great big beautiful bill and the Genius Act. In the Genius Act, he made it clear that digital currencies are going to be happening, the staple coin market, also regulating the crypto industry, which is different than the staple coin. And what they're talking about ultimately doing is getting rid of the U.S. dollar by literally replacing it with the staple coin. I think eventually your bank statement will refer to your dollars as staple dollars. And what ultimately is going to happen, and I believe clandestinely when we talk about some of the things this administration is doing, is they're going to sit back and by the April or when the Federal Reserve chair changes, push to lower interest rates like crazy. Trump will be banging that door, lowering interest rates, lowering interest rates, lowering interest rates. But in that same act, the Genius Act, the United States Treasury will be running the money under the digital world, not the Federal Reserve. So what Trump has indirectly done is, in a very subtle way, getting rid of the Federal Reserve capability of printing money and having the control of it and putting it in his hands.
All right. So you mentioned where you think gold's going, $5,500 next year an ounce. Where's silver going? 100,
110. It'll test 100, test 110, maybe draw back down into the 90s. But it's going to, I believe it'll test 100. And I think gold will hit right around 45 to 47, 4,600 by March 31st of next year. And I was on television with you on January 3rd this year when gold was 2,500, and we were sitting there and I said gold will hit 3,000 by March 31st, and it was March 20th it hit 3,000. And I also said that it was going to go back to 4,200 when everybody said gold's going down and went to 3,900 and change. I said it's buy time. And where is it now? It's heading to 42, 4,300 before year end. So if you have to sell gold, I understand it because you're losing your lifestyle or whatever else. If you're drawing some profits out, I understand that. But if you're looking long term, understand gold is in a bull run for the next 3 years. And this coming year, 5,500, although B of A and Chase is calling for 6,000. I'm saying 55 to 5,600.
Now, if we're in a gold run for the next 3 years, where do you see it popping out?
If they go digital and if the Democrats take control of the government, $10,000 gold. If they take control, they will trash this country. There's no doubt about it. They will impeach Trump. They will literally go on a spending spree. They will literally do the nuclear option in the Senate, in my opinion. And I think Ron Johnson was right. We better do it because they're going to do it with the nuclear option. But if the Democrats take control, they're going to impeach Trump day one. It's going to be negative stuff. There's going to be socialist activity going on. It's going to be crazy. And the world's going to say, wait a minute, we don't want any U.S. treasuries. And there's going to be a sell-off of treasuries. It's going to be a mess. If we keep control and there's some stability, I'm looking to $7,000 to $8,000 gold by the time Trump leaves office, because the United States government is going to finish the audit of Fort Knox. The rumor I have is 251 million ounces. It's all being priced at $42.50 an ounce right now. If they reprice it at the spot price of the market, they'll gain $10 trillion of assets, which will go against debt, which Basant is loving to do. He said that openly in an interview a few weeks back, and I think they will play that card additionally. But what people need to be watching out for, the big thing next year, is the adjustment in the stock market. It's like a hot potato, pick a number type of thing. Anytime there's a crash going on, there's a miraculous recovery. Well, sooner or later, that's going to end with the banks.
End with the banks. And so, first of all, where do you think it settles back out? After America goes through this, where do you see gold and silver settling out and becoming the norm?
You're talking at the end of Trump's term?
No, at the end of this whole financial crisis, where do you see it coming back down to and settling and being the normal price?
somewhere in the $5,500 to $6,500 range.
And that will be the price that we have for, years and years.
No, I don't think years and years. I think it'll be till the next presidency is in effect. My concern is there's been so much bad numbers coming out of the government and so much games, as you talk about, and we're not here to make criticism, just tell the truth. There's so many different games coming out of all this information. It's like pick a number all the time. And to get up here and watch people right now spending money.
This
still,
is heavy. It's my computer. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Spending money and literally in debt, and watching the American dream being the way it is right now, and the inability for people to buy homes because of regulation more than anything else. People are not happy, and if they do change and go into a democratic facade, you could be looking at $6,000 to $7,000 range as a norm for gold. But gold next year will top 5,000, 5,500 in my book.
Okay, I want you to watch this clip and respond to what's going on in Japan. Watch this.
War that's been simmering for years just went nuclear, and almost no one is talking about it, well, yet. Japan's bond yield just smashed through 1.7%. It's the highest since 2008, effectively torching the yen carry trade that has financed the entire world's debt binge for 3 decades. The silent money printer is dead. Trillions that were parked in U.S. treasuries, tech stocks, European debt, and emerging markets are now heading for the exits. The yen crashing, the dollar is wobbling, and every major central bank is suddenly staring at the same terrifying question: who blinks first? Here to join us to talk about this and more is...
All right, so what do you make of what's happening in Japan, Mr. Michael Weiner?
It's the same thing as our money. The biggest problem Japan had is we suckered them back in the 80s. We literally suckered them. Goes almost to the point when they bought the GM building for $1 billion, and GM bought it back for $500 million from them literally a year later. We worked Japan. We screwed them up so badly, it's still not recovered for how badly we stuck it to them. And right now, with their treasuries and their money, they are going digital. They're going digital to try to sit back and salvage themselves. That's why the United States is doing it right now. Their solution to the problem is not to pay down the debt, is just to create more money, but they can't do it through paper anymore. So if they do it digitally, they can devalue it, they can change it, and they can work it, and we're going to sit back and be caught in the middle. That's why owning gold is so important, because having a tangible asset is probably the most germane thing you could do. That's why Japan is a big buyer of gold with their central banks while all this is going on, because they've got a deal in the Asian marketplace, different than even us, in a much more direct manner.
Do you see bank failures coming, or at least regional or big bank, or what do you see?
Well, I think there'll be a lot of manipulation. I think that the government, just like they did when we had the problem under Biden with the 2 banks that were a Signature Bank and the other bank that got in trouble back on the West Coast, they didn't even pay attention to what the FDIC protects. They just said, we'll cover it all. What do you mean you're going to cover it all? I mean, if that's the case, I'm going to change my whole theory of how I'm going to deposit my money. But apparently they just chose to do it. So who knows? I mean, if Trump is going to allow banks to go down, or if they're going to sit back and do the bail-in situation, it's just not normal. When Signature Bank and the other bank got in trouble, they didn't allow them to settle and go through their problem. They bailed them out 100% on the dollar. That's unheard of. But they did it anyways. So anybody with any level of intelligence financially cannot sit back and say, are the banks going to have a problem? They're already in problems right now. Mm-hmm. But who knows what they're going to do? They're not following procedure. So I guess if you want to put more than $300,000 in the bank and it's a Democrat's bank and they're running it, you're covered. You're just going to get whatever the flavor of the money is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. I wanted to see court rules on bail-ins. Have we had courts rule on bail-ins? Has there been any court? I thought I heard a rumor the other day about a court has ruled that bail-ins can happen. They can take a percentage of your bank accounts. Have you heard anything about that?
There hasn't been a permanent ruling yet, but it's going to be hard to set it aside because it's part of the law. When the Dodd-Frank's law went into effect, one of the laws that Nancy Pelosi said you could read it after we sign it, which was the Dodd-Frank's law, it's right in there. So, I mean, constitutionally, they don't have a grounds to stand on. And, you know, for people to understand bail-in, it's real simple. You get a credit card statement. In the statement, it says minimum payment. That's what bail-in's all about. Because the banks can turn around and say, you know, you have $10 million in the bank, but today we're going to give you $50. And factually speaking, when it does finish up in the courts, they're going to lose. The people who want to get rid of bail-ins, you can't. You got to go to Congress, and it's just a waste of time. Sort of like going after Comey.
So you don't believe there will be bail-ins?
I believe there will be bail-ins.
You believe there will be?
I think their ability to get rid of bail-ins is a waste of time.
Okay, I'll make sure the audience and I understand what you're saying.
Law.
All right, and what percentage of your accounts do you think they could take?
The bank?
Yep.
They could take whatever percentage they want to go with, that they come up with a number. Let's say they say, well, we're bail-in right now, we're going to honor 20%. You know, when they had a bail-in in
Cyprus, it was Cyprus.
In Cyprus, they were telling people, and one of the guys here that works here, his father was living there, and he had a 7-figure amount of Cyprus dollars in the bank, and they gave him $50 a day. So if they actually determined that number, and what's your recourse? Take them to court. By the time you get it done, you'll probably be dead. So it exists. People did not pay attention to it. They did not read it. This is all the new world of banking that, you know, we don't understand because they don't want us to understand it. That's why.
Yeah.
If you did, then you would be upset, and maybe people would stand up to it, and they're not. It's too late.
Yeah. I remember, I'm trying to find it real quick. I remember I played a story of a lady that owned a restaurant over there in Cyprus. And some news group did a story on her and the amount of money that she had taken from her account. And she was on camera warning people, you know, about the dangers of this. So it indeed did happen. We've got it somewhere in our archives. But anyway, there's a lot going on, no doubt about it. And I'm not sure we're being told the truth, even by this administration, which was always blasting the Biden administration for not telling the truth. I'm not sure this administration is doing any more in regards to telling the American people the truth. Would you agree with that statement?
I unfortunately, I have to agree. It's really, as we are saying on the show, it's not that we're against anybody one way or the other. It's the truth is the truth.
Yep.
And, you know, to go on TV and tell everybody everything's wonderful, we're the richest nation, where everybody loves us, yada, 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 that's wonderful. But it's hard out there right now, and people are feeling it, and they don't want to hear that. They want to hear, like, how are you going to make it better, and tell me the truth. Don't just tell me it's all great, because it's not. And that's why we try to tell people here that owning gold is having something you physically control. And physical control is a gift in this country right now. If you could think of something you own, it's like I had a client of ours from Worldview Today said something to me very interesting. He said, well, I got a friend of mine who just teases me all the time about my gold. And meanwhile, he's done extremely well with his gold, but he's into Bitcoin. I said, I'll tell you what, if there's a meltdown in this country and we go to the grocery store and I got a gold coin and you got a Bitcoin receipt, guess who's eating? I am, and you're not. Okay? So the truth is the truth.
Yep, indeed. All right, get your free no obligation packet. Worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com, or 1-877-864-1072, 1-877-864-1072, or fill out the form at worldviewgold.com. You can find out about how to obtain gold, precious metals, gold, silver, numismatic, 1933 and older that provides privacy, or the new freshly minted bullion, if you will, silver eagles, gold eagles, or put gold into your IRA. But things are certainly moving fast. So folks, there you go. No obligation, free packet. I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. My opinion is you should do your own homework. And I think it starts with getting that free packet of information. Michael, as always, thank you for the financial update.
My pleasure. Good night, Dolly, wherever you are.
Oh, well, she's right here. Do we have the Dolly cam on? We do have the Dolly cam on. She's right there. She heard you. She heard her name.
There you go.
There she is.
She's resting.
Hand down.
Hard
Show
day.
her eyes. Yep. There we go. There she is. Say hello, Mr. Weiner.
Yeah,
There you
she's
go.
pretty upset about
yeah.
me not seeing me when I was in town. It was very
Yeah, she
upsetting.
was very busy. She had a very busy schedule. You didn't get on the calendar, apparently.
Yeah, right.
Very busy
Right.
social calendar.
There you go. Have a wonderful evening.
Dude, thank
Take
you.
care.
Michael Weiner checking in, worldviewgold.com. All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. Do you appreciate what we're doing? Do you appreciate what we're doing here, Dolly? If you do, if you do, we need your support. Worldview. You winked at me. She just winked at me. Worldviewfoundation.com. That's not Michael Weiner. That's Dolly Howse. She should get her own name up there. Dolly Howse. Worldviewfoundation.com. You're going to wink at me again? Worldviewfoundation.com. You can roll the music. Let's call it a night. If you appreciate what we're doing, we need your support. Hey, don't forget, our International Online Worldview Weekend is this Thursday and Friday. We're going to be doing a lot of interviews throughout the day, starting at 9 a.m. in the morning, going into the evening, Thursday and Friday. Lots of special interviews looking at 2025 and what's to come in 2026. I've already recorded up about an hour interview with Erwin Lutzer over the weekend. There you go. Dolly Howse, CEO of Worldview 2. That's right. I take my orders from Dolly and Logan. That's about right. That is about right. May God save America. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio intelligence.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
And welcome. Glad you are with us. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Boy, we sure did. I'm going to be joined by Courtney Turner and some very important video clips, audio clips to help us understand how we got here and where we are going. Somewhere here in my stack of stuff, I have, I thought I did at least. Yeah, I do. Here it is. I brought up to the studio her book that she co-wrote with Patrick Wood, The Final Betrayal. You know, I've talked about this a lot lately. And as I was doing some work and research over the Thanksgiving break, I went to a interview that was done back in 1982 between my friend G. Edward Griffin and a Mr. Norman Dodd. He was the chief investigator for the Reese Committee that was held in the mid-50s to figure out what it was these tax-exempt foundations like the Carnegie Foundation, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation were really up to, and how they were really pushing and controlling and helping to fund and write curriculum in America to turn America's students into collectivists, people that were more interested in collectivism, not individuality, not laws that protect individual rights, but protect the rights or advance the cause of the collective, the group. That's socialism, right? And for many years, I've wondered and kind of thought, why on earth would people that made their money through the free market system